Today on the podcast, I have Christy Lett, and it was such a pleasure to have met you. Um, she is, as they call in her company, the 2%er, because only 2% of people are able to achieve like the position that she has been. But that does not give her heart. I feel like she has such a massive heart to help women and to help other business owners, no matter what business they're in. And she has an amazing meetup, a women's meetup in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is how I met her. And let me tell you, this women's meetup is unlike anything I've ever seen on the face of the planet. Because, and I wanted to ask you about that because I know a lot of women, they tend to say, oh, well, they're like catty, and there's like always this competition. But I've experimented this meetup that Christy runs, and it's completely the opposite. Everyone is trying to help each other. They're sending you referrals, and it's just such a nice heart. What made you start that meetup? And because I know you used to go to a lot of other types of meetups. So what made you start that? And how is it so different than all these other ones that I hear about?
You know what made me start that group was back, I guess, maybe 2006 or 7. I was in more of a very formal networking group, and it was expensive, and it met every single week. And while I learned a lot about being an entrepreneur from that group, because my background is corporate risk management, and the corporate world is totally different than entrepreneurship. And so I had been in that group for a while. Just because of scheduling issues, I was going to have to drop from that group. And a few months later, I just thought, I could start my own group. It doesn't take rocket science. It just takes people loving on people. And we created what I call an unpaid sales force. It's people looking out for other people, being in the middle of a referral and being able to give it, because you get to know the heart of the other business women in the group, and you want their businesses to succeed. And so, you just listen. Women are really good at this because they hear needs from other women. And so then they just say, you should talk to my friend Susie. She would be a really massive resource for you. And so in that group, we don't really allow competition. It's one person per profession. And I have found that takes away most of the cattiness. There's just not going to be any when there's no competition. And these people really look out for one another. There are a lot of people in that group that don't even have a whole lot of capacity to grow anymore and they give credit to that networking group, but it's not just about that. I mean, you can't just network for your business and not ever do your job. And I recommend that and tell people that all the time. It's about meeting together one-on-one, because a networking group like that is just a handshake. It's just it's just an introduction. But then when you meet somebody like you and I did that day at Aubrey's, you can hear their heart for their business and really get to know them and why they do what they do and why they're good at what they do. We like to have the best of the best in that group. And so we always recommend to our members, hey, bring your best XYZ, real estate agent or banker or whatever, not just somebody who's just starting out in their business. Not that that's a bad thing, but you really want, when you have a networking group like that, that's networking for business, you want really great, strong professionals.
Right.
So, yeah, that group kind of blows your hair back.
It's amazing. I mean, and I think what really sold me on the group was you. I mean, I loved everyone in there, and I met a lot of great people, but so Christy did something, and where I've been to a lot of networking groups, but I've never had the the leader, that group, reach out to me the very next day, or I think it was that night that you reached out to me and was like, do you want to meet? I think we met the next day or sometime that week or something like that.
Yeah, soon.
And
Soon.
that solidified it because I got to know you really
Mhm.
personally, and I think that you doing that with all the people that visit is what really separates it from other networking groups that, people can be a part of. So
And gosh, well,
kudos to
I
you.
saw the power in you. I mean, I wanted to get to know you. You walk in that room and you own it.
Oh, thank you.
So that was easy. You were my very first message after that meeting.
I'm sure you had like 2 people and all. I'm just kidding.
Oh no, we always have lots of visitors. You're
I'm just
amazing.
kidding. I'm just kidding. Um, but that's another thing I wanted to ask you about because I know you work with Arbonne, right? And you've
Mhm.
been a part of that company for many years. I think how many
17.
years? 17
17.
years. Yeah, that's a long time and it's a commitment. But also being a part of this networking group, you're able to see other women and other businesses, and because you always want the best and to be a part of that group, what do you think separates someone that, is maybe average, I guess, when it comes to sales? I don't want to say that word, but you know what I'm saying. Just compared to someone that is the best, that is a part of your group.
One word, consistency. You know,
100%.
you just got to be consistent in whatever it is that you do. Not everybody wants to be a 2%er, and that's okay. I know in my business, I meet people where they are. If they tell me, they want to make $300 a month, then fine. I can coach them and teach them what to do that. But if they want to make generation changing income, I can help them with that too. But I don't try to put, a square peg in a round hole. That's not what we're going to do and help somebody get successful anyway. And we don't want anybody feeling like losers.
You're so sweet though, because because there are people, I mean, you have big dreams, right? Because if not, then you wouldn't be part of the top of the company. So what did that ever have to change? Were you ever like trying to basically sell people into like your vision or your dream, and then maybe something had to happen where you learned, you know what, I'm just gonna, like you said, meet people where they are and not make them feel bad about, whatever their vision is for their life, even if it's different than mine.
Yes. Okay, embarrassing story. So there was a time in my business where it felt very stagnant, like I wasn't really growing, and I was trying to force things. And I think there's a difference in being a cheerleader and being a coach, or having a cheerleader and having a coach. That cheerleader is going to just rah you all the time, where a coach will rein you in and speak truth into your life. And my coach is a dear friend. And, if I ever get whiny about whatever, she's like, hey, do I have permission to coach you right now?
Wow.
And of course, my answer is always yes, because I've always been a really super coachable person. Like you, I was an athlete back in the day. And so I always wanted to do what my coaches said, because I figured there's a reason they're the coach.
Right.
So Lisa, my friend, said, hey, do I have some permission to coach you about this subject? And I said, of course. And she said, Christy, I've seen you in your business when it's about you. And, whether it's, when I started my business, I started it for a college fund for our kids. They were 7 and 10. Now they're out of college. One is in grad school, one's out of grad school. So that's the reason that I started it. And so, I had more of a me interest where, and she said, Christy, I've seen you in your business where when you are you focused and, forcing that, you're just not that good at this. I would call this a little come to Jesus meeting. But Christy, when it's all about others and when you're others focused, which I lean that way anyway. But she said, when you really, hyper focus on others, you can't be stopped. Your business just, is like volcanic. It just keeps going. And so she reminded me, and that was kind of an inflection point for me, that turning point of, you're exactly right. And so now I have a little come to Jesus meeting with myself occasionally. Because it can't be about me. Yeah, I mean, we do things like we have incentives, and you meet whatever this goal is and you earn a trip or whatever. But I just kind of, yeah, I keep that over here. I know the tally and that kind of stuff, but it can't just be about that. It has to be about helping others and changing other people's lives through health and nutrition. So
I love that. And I think it's because your life changed first, right?
Absolutely.
Focusing on health and nutrition. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, I have to go back a few years, about 5 years ago. We had told our kids we were going to go to Hawaii. Well, Hawaii is not a trip that our family does every year, or even every 5 years, or every 10. And so we were doing kind of a one down and one to go trip. Our oldest had just graduated from college or was about to. And so we said, okay, we're going to go to Hawaii. So I had a little bit more of an incentive. And let me just say up front, the program that I coach is not just all about weight loss. It's about healthy living. And at the time, for me, my knees hurt all the time. I would hesitate to go up a flight of stairs. I would find that elevator, or, trying to buy new clothes. Everybody knows where that, if it's a curvy, more of a curvy fit, then you can stay in the same size that you want to be in. I was just kind of I was to the point of being sick and tired of it. And I was always on one diet or another. And Arbonne had come out with a program called 30 Days to Healthy Living. But quite honestly, I hadn't taken hold of that product or that program and done it myself. And I just decided that I was going to do the program as it was written. And I did that from January until May when we went on our trip, and I met those goals, and my knees did stop hurting and my jeans did start fitting, and I didn't hesitate to take a run up those stairs. And, I gained confidence, and I felt like I kind of got myself back. And not that I think I'm all that in a bag of chips. It's not that. But, I just felt like I could help other people at that point. And that's when I started coaching other people to do the same thing. Because people would see me and be like, what in the world? What are you doing?
Right.
And so, because I wanted to make sure, it worked for me, because I had tried every diet, and I hate to even use the word diet. We all have a diet. It's good, it's bad, it's ugly, whatever. And so I had tried lots of things, and nothing had worked long term. And so, but then I started coaching other people to do the same thing. And I'm a words of affirmation girl, let me just tell you. And when somebody sends me a text and tells me how good they are feeling, whatever it is that whatever their goal was. But when they say that they're reaching their goals, and of course they talk to me at some point, usually via text every single day, because I coach them and I take coaching very seriously. I consider it an honor to coach somebody because they're trusting you. And so, talking to them every day, but they're always sending back messages to say what result they're getting, or that their husband, tried, their product too, or tried their protein shake, and he couldn't believe it actually tasted good. And, I feel like I'm not wasting money. So anyway, I'm not sure if I even answered your question.
Well, you and I could talk for hours, so you know this. I'm just like listening as you go on, but I I think that one of the main things that you pointed out, not just with that, but also with Lisa, was kind of the importance of having a coach, and just someone you can go to, or that is looking at your life and giving you some insight that maybe you aren't seeing. And so, what have you learned through being a coach and having one that maybe has helped pivot other people's lives? Because they essentially have to make the change themselves. But what have you learned through that process? Because I'm sure you're a coach to a lot of people aside from just your business. So
Yes. Well, I have coached hundreds of people through my 30-day challenge. What I have learned is that I cannot just be a cheerleader. I have to coach. It's my responsibility. Sometimes people will say, "Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I love mushrooms, and I just realized how healthy they are. So I bought all this cream of chicken soup or cream of mushroom soup."
got it.
And you say, "Oh yeah, that's a bunch of chemicals."
Yeah.
Let me challenge you on that. And so, I have had to become that person who is willing to challenge people's thinking about things. And sometimes it's just education. They just don't know what they don't know. And I'm not saying I know it all either. I listen to lots of podcasts and listen to other people who are smarter than me. And I try to pass along that little bit of information. But for me, having to change from that cheerleader to a coach, that is a shift. And, it takes somebody coaching you how to do that, to do it as well. Because I can cheerlead all day long.
Yes.
But coaching is very different. You really do have to speak truth and be willing to challenge people.
I think that comes naturally for some people and is very difficult for others. And so I think that if you're it's not disciplined, but it's like if you're correcting someone, I guess, educating, I don't know what the word you want to use, but if you're correcting someone or just showing them a different insight that is contrarian to theirs, some may receive it well and others may be very defensive. So what have you found makes the most difference? Like, do the people that are the most open to hearing criticism, do they grow more, or the people that maybe are, I'm trying to understand as a coach or as really a leader, how you invoke leadership into other people.
So I think that might have been two questions. So
I ask a bunch of questions.
What's easiest to so the folks who are coachable, the ones who are more coachable really do trust me, and they hear my heart on things. I tell people all the time, I have a 90-day money back guarantee. I'm not afraid to use it. And I think them knowing that gives them a little bit more trust in me too. And then as far as coaching others to coach, was that the second question?
Yeah, how you invoke leadership in those that you are coaching.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I find that the people that I am coaching just to a healthier way of life, oftentimes they end up being coaches themselves. They join my business to coach other people because once they've done it, they can coach it.
Right.
And do they need a little help those first, few months of coaching it? Absolutely. But it becomes easier and easier the more people that they coach. And we have a real heart for others on our team. And that's the one thing, that's the culture of what we do. We just really love on other people. And I can't remember, I don't think you were able to, when you were in Knoxville, to come to one of my events, but we do things that just build value for other people, like protein ball workshop or a salad in a jar workshop, or things like that are just fun, that just build a little bit more value into what they're doing. It teaches people, we do things called a superfood supper, where my team cooks for people. There's usually 20 or 25 people in the foyer dining room, this little extra space right here. and we just prove that healthy can taste good. I tell people all the time, bring your husband. I'm going to prove to him that healthy can taste good.
That's funny. Yeah, that's always the caveat. It can be healthy, but we need to make it taste good.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And then I also know that you used to have a corporate job. You were in corporate risk management. What is the mindset shift that needs to happen when you are coming from a corporate background into now just being a full-time entrepreneur? What have you experienced is like the mindset shift that needed to occur for you?
My corporate job, like a lot of people's, is, a 40-ish hour a week job. And you might be able to go home and turn that off. And it's like Arbonne has gotten into me. It is part of my life. It's a means to be able to do other things.
Mhm.
I don't just turn it off when I get home, because I'm always going to be cooking healthy, or, if I'm making a recipe that I think, oh, my clients need to see this. I put it in my VIP group, and I let people, be part of my life, and just seeing this journey. Whether I'm taking a walk and taking pictures of flowers or trees. I mean, this time of year, everything here is blooming and beautiful, and the grass is green, and the dogwood trees are just in full bloom. And so I'll take pictures, and that's just part of what I do. I don't really turn that part of life off, where in the corporate world you really can. You can just turn everything off. And I don't know, good thing, bad thing, it's just part of life now.
Right. It just I agree with that 100%. And not to say there's one that's better or the other, it's just really a preference, I think. Um, what do you think holds most people back from wanting to become or becoming an entrepreneur if they have that desire?
Oh, fear, no doubt. Fear of what people think, fear of failure, just generally fear. What is it? False evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. There are very few things that we really need to be afraid of. And fear of failure is not one of them. Because if you never try it, absolutely, you won't win in whatever it is you're doing.
So in whatever, you started the business and you kept going, right? 17 years. So when fear would come and it shows up in different circumstances or different ways, what are things that maybe you would say to yourself to push past that fear, or to just face it head on to keep going?
I think part of it is having people around you who are very encouraging. Like I mentioned, the culture around our team is very uplifting. And even my husband, I laugh when I say this. Because, he is one of these people. He is my biggest cheerleader. He's not as much my coach, because, when I first started my business, he'd be like, how can you stand to get so many no's?
Yeah.
Because, and as you get better at your craft, of course, you're going to get less no's. But I would just be like, well, I just figure they'll come around at some point. They'll decide they want healthier, products at some point. But Brian, when I'm like heading out the door, he'll say, go get him, Triple B. He came up with this thing, and it's business building babe. That's it. So, I think having somebody in your corner all the time, Brian is very much in my corner and cheerleading me. And, but yeah, and other people too, even my friends, even friends that don't necessarily shop with me, they'll like or share a post just to help me out,
Yeah. Yeah, that's sweet. I think it really has to do with who you have around you, that helps you push past that. So
Yes.
how were you able to cultivate these friendships? I know it has a lot to do with business, but also in general, right? Because you have your networking group, and you are a networker. I mean, 100%. You love talking to other people. So, how have you cultivated these relationships in just everyday life that help you just in general, right, to continue having faith that things are going to work out in your business, in your life, in your family, whatever it is?
Yeah, I am very purposeful in my friendships because I do believe that you become like the people you hang around with the most.
Hmm.
And so I purposefully hang around with people that I want to be more like, whether they're in my business or not. But people who are just encouraging and are at the top of their game, whether that's, it might be that they're a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mom. They're really good
Yeah.
stay-at-home wives or stay-at-home moms, or they're that business person that's at the top of their game. I believe in hanging around people that you want to be like. And then those relationships are fostered because of that, because you're together and you have something in common. Do you force that? Not necessarily. you
Has to
know,
come kind of naturally, no?
yeah, for sure. I love being a friend. I do think you have to, um, you know, be a good friend to have a good friend. Definitely. That's something
Yeah.
I've coached my kids with, from the time they were very young, be a friend.
So in practical ways, how do you be a good friend? Because like I'm being very honest. I know this may come very natural to you, but a lot of times we are friends, or we have a lot of friends like growing up, right? In school, it's easy because you're in that group. If you go to work, you make friends with the people that are there. If you're in business, the people that are there, so it's easy when you're kind of in an environment. But when you're purposefully or intentionally seeking out a specific friend, um, I think being kind, because you're so kind, but what are some practical ways that you do to cultivate some of these friendships? Because honestly, that's one of the things I admire about you. You're able to do that so well, and I would love to learn a thing or two on that.
I think just purposefully scheduling time for friends, whether it's to invite friends over for dinner, or I have a lot of friends who say, yeah, I don't really want to like go to a restaurant and hang out, but I'll go shopping with you. So let's go shopping, or let's go to that favorite little, shoe store down the road. If I find a sale that I think somebody's gonna enjoy, I'm gonna tell my friends about it.
Mhm.
But I think you've got to be intentional about spending time with your people. Now, there are people that, I don't spend a ton of time with, but when I see them, it feels like we've never been apart. Those are some of just the best friends.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. And as an adult, I think that happens a little bit more than we'd like to admit, but it's just a chaos of life sometimes. But
mhm. Oh, and I
um,
think too, with depending on the the phase of life that you're in, you know, I found when my kids were young, and even though it was a really busy time, our friends all had kids. And so you had those things in common, and you had birthday parties, and you had, time, a lot of time together. Um, and even when like our kids got out of even high school, our kids both went away to school, to college. And but that time in your life when your kids are gone, it's like, oh wait, where am I? What am I doing now? And I have
right,
had a little bit more time. And okay, what do I want to fill that with? And then I think you
right.
have to be intentional about what you want to fill that newfound time with.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that you have been in Arbonne for 17 years. And so I wanted to ask you, right, what I know you said you mentioned you started because you wanted to build like a trust fund for your kids, for college fund, essentially college fund for your kids, when they were younger. But what made you kick it into gear where it was no longer just like something you did on the side, but really now it is your full-time profession?
It's funny. I did not want a side hustle. And my business definitely started out as a side hustle. I even tried to talk my best friend out of it. I thought she was crazy because she was even busier than I was. And so, I was not that person who said, oh, I'm going to do this and go gangbusters. I was much more of the, okay, I'm going to do this and create a college fund.
Uh-huh.
And so, I think when I realized how much potential there was, because I was thinking very small in the beginning, that it would just be a college fund, and it's come full circle. It's a whole lot more than that. Yeah, our kids did go to college, didn't come out of college with any debt, so that was great, but it's a whole lot more than that. And really the thing that I love the very most about my business is the friendships that I've made. I mean, there are so many people I would have never met if I had not, taken that step and faced fear, because I definitely had some fear. I mean, people thought I was crazy for doing what I was doing. And, you just have to face it and decide it doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what's best for your family.
Hmm. And what do you tell yourself when, like, I have a question when it has to do with Brian too. So I'm sure you've had conflict in business, or just, business. I mean, I think life, not even business, but you just deal with things, and then so many problems sometimes just when it rains, it pours. So how have you navigated that with your husband? Because your husband, he does have a corporate job. And so, and you being full-time as an entrepreneur, it's different, right? You might think differently about certain things. So how have you navigated conflict with him?
We have pretty much always dated. We were told early on in our marriage to don't stop dating, because you don't want to, when your kids go off to college, say, oh, who are you? Hello, I'm Christy.
Right.
You want to continue to know each other. And so we have worked on our marriage forever. We, attend marriage conferences and things like that. And so we are good communicators. We work on that with each other. We know what those buttons are. And the one conflict I can remember was pretty early on in my business, when I had decided to kind of flip that switch and be a little bit more of an all-in. I wasn't doing it full time, but I still had my corporate job, and I had flipped that switch. And he just said, hey, just so you know, well, the three of us are here and we need food. Because he doesn't like to cook.
Yep.
So he just wanted me to make sure that there was at least food in the house if I wasn't going to be home on an evening. And so, food that was cooked. he is not a cook. He's great by making, reservations, but, you don't want to do that all the time when you got little kids.
Right.
So,
That's funny. Well, I think, okay, so it's just like dating your spouse that kind of helps you navigate. With business conflict, is it he's someone that you go to get like his insight on things? So sometimes a different perspective is helpful. Someone
for
that's
sure.
not in the mix, So is that something that you prone to go to him, or you will tend to go mainly to your coach just to get different perspectives on things?
Oh, I definitely enjoy his perspective on things. And he actually asks for mine sometimes, because he works in the corporate world, and he's a guy and he works with
Right.
a lot of women. And so he wants to make sure that he's, communicating so that it doesn't come across as, hey, I'm your boss. And so, we talk about that. And then I ask him questions about business as well, because he is a businessman. He comes from the corporate finance world. He's a CPA by trade, but he doesn't do taxes, so don't call him for that. He does hours, but that's about it. And the kids.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, his perspective on things is always very different as far as now if it's about, you know, money and cost of things and the best way, you know, really I know our system better than he does for that, but you know, he's always good to bounce things off of.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to ask, what are some of the beliefs about yourself that you needed to change in order to become successful in your craft?
Oh, you know, that old saying, if it is to be, it is up to me. In my business, it can't just be that because it's not just about me. You have to build a team if you want to be in that top 1 or 2%. And so, you know, coaching others, because if it's up to me, I mean, I can get some stuff done. I can sell some products, but it's not just about that. You know, it is about coaching others for their success and whatever they want their success to be.
Yeah.
But that definitely had to be a shift because in network marketing, it's not just about how much you can sell. So
it has a lot to do with team building. And so how do you, from seeing someone outside, you don't know them, how do you know it's going to be someone that's going to be a good leader on a team, right? Whether it's your team or in general. What are certain things that they say or ways that they carry themselves that you know what, this person would be a good asset to a team?
So here's my test.
I love to know it.
So if I walk up to somebody and say, "Oh, I love your top," and they go, "Thanks," they're not my person. If they go, "Oh my goodness, I got it on sale at Dillard's and it's, you know, it's so cheap. It was, you know," or "I've had this for 45 years. Okay, they make it to the next step. Because I know that they're a friendly person and I like to work with friendly people. You know, not that that's the way I recruit all the time, but if I do meet people out and about, you know, friendly people are just more fun to be around. And right. I like to be around, you know, friendly, nice people, not stinkers. I don't, you know,
I think it changes like the atmosphere, like the environment when you're dealing with someone that is friendly, that is nice, kind, you know, and then once they join the team because they are friendly, and you start seeing, okay, well, they're able to talk and they're an extrovert and they can meet other people very easily. What would you say separates leaders from, like, you know, like a normal leader to someone that really is going to make the biggest difference? I know you said consistency, but are there some other ones?
You know, people who are willing to put in a little good old-fashioned hard work. You know, sales is not the easiest thing. You do get some no's. It is a skill. You know, it's something that can be trained. You know, if it's a personality thing, that's a harder training.
Right.
than a sales skill. But, you know, again, consistency. If I see that they are putting in the work and being consistent, then I can definitely see them in more of a leadership role. Yes.
What keeps you being consistent? Because you've been in Arbonne for 17 years. So that's a long time. So I'm sure there were moments where maybe you wanted to give up. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, I'm trying to get to the point where maybe you were thinking, maybe I should give up on this, but something kept you pushing, something kept you persevering.
Yeah. Oh, I've definitely had times in my business where I wasn't consistent and where I thought, okay, would it be easier just to go back to that corporate world? And then I think of the opportunity that I have now versus where I was before. And it's a much, much larger opportunity. And so, I mean, I'm in this for life. I am what they call a lifer. So I'm going to be in it forever. I forget what the rest of your question was now. What's kept me in?
Yeah, what's kept you in when things were hard?
You know, I think I'm just not a quitter. I've never been a quitter. And so I just won't.
So it has a lot to do with your identity.
It can. Yeah.
Yeah, with how you see yourself.
Yeah. I just tend to stick to things. I do tend to be a little bit of a little obsessive about things, which is a good reason that I don't drink, because I would be in trouble.
That's funny.
But you know, I definitely can be a little bit, and so you know, I love what I love, and I love to share that. You know, if you're my friend, you're always going to be my friend. That's just part of me. And I think that's part of being in a business like this. You just decide and you stay with it, and you don't decide for a year. You just decide.
You just decide and keep your commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's
so,
like your marriage. You don't just decide to, you know, fall out of love.
Right.
You know, you consistently work on it.
I think it has to do, it's related to what you were saying, even with Brian, right? So you learn from the beginning where, you know, I'm going to date my husband. And so you continue doing that, right? Even though there are times in marriage where it's great and everything is like rainbows and butterflies. And there are times where it could be difficult, you know, but you keep going. So same thing.
After
Same
32
thing.
years, for sure.
Yeah,
Not
right?
always rainbows.
It's not always rainbows. And I think same thing with business, you know. But I think what mainly separates you is you have this just warm, encouraging kind spirit where I don't know how you cultivate it, or you're just always naturally like this, because every time I'm around you, like that is like the energy, I guess, or the environment that I'm feeling whenever I'm with you. Do you do something for that? I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, is this just how she's always been, like all her life, or does she do something where, you know, when things are difficult, you know, it's like, no, well, I'm gonna just chip her up, buttercup.
You know, I was not always as outgoing. And I do have to like make myself be a little bit more outgoing. I used to think as an adult that I was an extrovert because I'm friendly. And then I took the DISC profile, the more intensive DISC profile, and found out that nope, I'm a people-oriented introvert. So, but which is a little different. I always thought that just because I enjoyed being around friends, that made me an extrovert.
Right.
Even though I do tend to recover, you know, with friends. That is something that's not typically an introvert. You know, I guess it's just that being others focused. As a young person, I knew, you know, I was never that person that wanted to be the center of attention. I still don't. You know, doing something like this, way out of my comfort zone. Thanks, Maritza.
Nothing grows in comfort zones.
Yeah, exactly. So back when I was a young married, though, our church was pretty small, and it was a lot of people that were my parents' age and older. So I just decided, you know, if somebody walked through those doors that was under 90, they were going to be my best friend. So that's how I became much more extroverted, because I didn't want to leave our church. They were wonderful, but I also wanted to make sure that well, I just wanted to go to church with some people my age. And
right.
So that was like that first step out of that comfort zone of, you know, just being being, much more introverted.
Introverted. I
Mhm.
would never think you would be an introvert ever.
Isn't that funny? Yeah,
Th-
nobody does. And
No.
honestly, I didn't either until it was probably 7 or 8 years ago when I took that big, the extensive DISC profile test. So
What are other things that you've done to get out of your comfort zone other than, coming a little bit more extroverted at church, accepting this invitation to be on a podcast? Like take us through some of the things that you have done that maybe were scary at first and then you did it and you actually enjoyed it.
well, speaking in front of groups, I mean, I've spoken
Mm.
now in front of hundreds of people at a time. I haven't made it to the thousands, but that was very, very much out of my comfort zone. And even speaking in front of small groups, when I first started my business, I told my friend Kim, I said, Kim, I'm not going to do parties. My friends are partied out. And she was like, okay, then just meet with people one-on-one. So I did. And then a gal joined my team who said, oh my goodness, I love parties. I want to do parties. And I called my friend Kim and I said, Kim, how do you do an Arbonne party? And she said, Christy, it's the same thing you've been doing with one person, but do it with 5. And I was like, oh, light bulb, you can multiply your time there, duplicate yourself. And so that was even just one step is having that shift from talking in front or just talking one-on-one, because I can talk to anybody one-on-one, but in front of a large group, no thanks. And so that was a growth moments lots of them.
Lots of moments.
Yeah, and then being willing to change, change is anti-aging. And so we all need to be willing to change. Every time there's a new, format of something, like, when the world shut down and we had to do Facebook parties, I was like, this is the hokiest thing I've ever done in my life. But they worked because people wanted to be
Connect.
with people. They wanted to see people as much as they could. And then we did some Zoom parties, and then, then finally we were back in person, and I'm like, let's party, I'm the first one to say, let's everybody come over. Let's do some stuff. Let's, have some, protein shakes and protein balls and taste some different things. And, of course, fizz, I love some fizz. So anyway, but yeah, just that getting out of my comfort zone and willing to change, that's definitely.
You said something that was profound. You said change is anti-aging. Can you tell me more? I've never heard someone say that before. And the more I thought about what you said, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But tell me more. So what, as you grow older, you are less susceptible to change, I assume.
Absolutely. Yeah. The old adage, you can't teach a new dog or an old dog new tricks.
New tricks.
It is so true. If you are just so set in your ways that you're never willing to learn anything, we're just going to take up space and just age. But if you're willing to change, and maybe it's picking up a new sport, or maybe it's, learning to eat vegetables. My goodness gracious, there are so many people that live their life at a drive-through. Nothing good comes through the drive-through window. So just for the record. But if you're willing to make some changes, it's definitely anti-aging. It will, it'll help you stay young.
What do you think is like the age when people stop changing and get set on their ways?
Sometimes it's 15.
Right? I think that a lot of times when you're growing up, you're trying to get like your picture of the world, of way things work. But I've seen plenty of people that are sometimes even in their 20s, and they have decided that this is the way that I see things. But I don't know. I'm just curious, because since you deal with so many different people of all different age groups, I I've always heard that quote that says some people die at 75, but really they died at 25. They just got buried at 75.
Yeah.
What has kept you continuing to change? Is it just like the business and the company and the people you surround yourself with, or is it something else?
I do think, the people that you surround yourself with, they're willing to change as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to grow. Like you said, there's, being uncomfortable makes you
Mm-hmm.
grow.
Yes.
I don't know that there's a certain age though. Sometimes people get so set in their ways and I know when I was growing up, I was very black and white. There was very little gray. And as I've gotten older, the gray line has definitely expanded.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not saying that right is not still right and wrong is not still wrong, but you can hear people's hearts for why they believe the way that they believe, and you can still be their friend if they don't believe the same way you do.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, Anyways, you're an inspiration to me. I think that you really are. I think it's your nature and your character more than any other financial success that you've had, even though you have had financial success with your family. But how do you think that the things that you have learned about personal development, how do you think that has changed or change the outlook for your daughters, because they would have probably received mm, a different type of mom, I would assume, right? If certain things didn't change. So what are some of the changes you have seen in them and seeing you do, all these different things that have to make you personally develop?
Yeah. My kids definitely have a different mom than they had, you know, 18 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they were young.
Yeah.
But, I think they've seen a mom who is willing to say yes. My yes means yes, my no means no. They've seen a mom who is, consistent, who is not afraid of a little good old fashioned hard work. My kids are definitely in the generation where, people like ease, but both my girls are hard workers. I mean, they are not at all in that, let's make it, let's just do the easy way out. Neither of them at all. They're both very hard workers. Um, I think they've seen a difference in me in that, I have so much more confidence now than I used to, for sure. Um, I don't know. I mean,
What has built that confidence?
being around other people and who are also confident or who encourage my confidence.
Mm. Do you think that we often surround ourselves, or maybe we're born into families that don't cultivate confidence in their children? And
Oh, for sure.
so how have you been able to do that with your girls?
You know, just encouraging them to try new things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not great at it, it's okay. But if you enjoy it, keep doing it. But if you're not great at it and you don't enjoy it, then maybe move on to a different sport, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Our girls were both athletic and both played, multiple sports and enjoyed what they did. Um, but I don't think that, we didn't let our kids be lazy. You have
Mm-hmm.
to be in something, we would always say. You can pick what that is. Now, sometimes we had to say, you can't be in all these things. Because, well, you only have so many hours in a day, and we want to spend those hours wisely.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that what you did with your kids is tremendous, because I know just a little bit of what they're doing, and I know one of your daughters um, is a health professional,
Mhm.
and she wants to help kids in other countries. Like, so you don't, I don't think you cultivate children like that unless you're making them learn about hard work, building up their confidence, and teaching them that whatever they put their mind to they can achieve it if they work for it. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
kudos to
we are
you.
very proud of those girls.
They're both amazing. And so kudos to you. And to end it off, I wanted to ask if there's someone that wanted to get in touch with you, is interested in becoming a network marketer, and is interested in maybe entering into the 30 days of healthy living, helped you to get a more health, more nutrition in your body, where your body wasn't hurting like it was before. What is the best place to connect with you, or what are some resources they can go and find you?
Yeah, my website is Christy Lett, ChristylEtt.arbonne.com. That's ARBONNE. And or my email is christylett@gmail.com. Probably the easiest way.
And I know you have a Facebook group, but I don't know if it's open to everybody or if it's just a select group.
It is a private group, but they can request membership to that group. It's called Pursuit of Healthiness.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you. And I think you gave us all really good insight, and can't wait to see what comes out of it.
Oh, thank you, Maritza. It was my honor to be here with you guys today.
The honor is all mine.
Love you,
Thank you,
friend.
Christy. Love you.
Bye.